Select Board meeting for Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. We'll call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. And just a reminder, this meeting is being broadcast live on BNC TV and live streamed on YouTube. To find BNC TV on YouTube, search for Bernardston-Northfield Community Television. This meeting will be available for later viewing by following the link at thetownofbernston.org. We'll start with the warrants tonight. We'll entertain a motion for the payroll warrant in the amount of $47,477.94.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion for the vendor warrant in the amount of $52,657.08.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion for the regular meeting minutes of January 11th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Calendar announcements. The Fire and Water District Commissioners will have a meeting Thursday, February 9th, 2023 at 6 o'clock p.m. at the district office on 295 South Street. And one more that's not on here, the Pioneer Valley Regional School District will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 9th on the fiscal year 24 budget at 6 p.m. at the Pioneer Valley Regional High School. Any citizens' concerns not already on the agenda? Jane.
Finance Committee and Select Board are meeting Monday.
One more calendar announcement. The Finance Committee and the Select Board are meeting Monday.
6:30.
What's the date Monday? February.
Monday is going to be February 13th.
Thank you. February 13th, 2023 at 6:30 at the Town Hall. Appointments. Our first appointment is not here currently, so okay. Oh, Natalie, come on in. We're just getting to you. It's perfect. And first up tonight, we have State Rep Natalie Blais. Come on up. Come on right up. We got to get you on camera.
Welcome.
How we doing?
Good to see you.
So you're here to come make a visit now that you're our rep.
I am.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
I know I'm in good company. I parked behind somebody's car with a Clarkdale Fruit Farm sticker.
Well, there you go.
Nice.
It's all good. So you want to bring us up to date on a few things, or?
Yeah, so I just, there are 18 communities in the First Franklin District now, and I've always made it a priority to meet with select boards at the beginning of at least every session, if not every year, just to hear from you in terms of what's important to you, what's on your minds. So this is just part of that outreach, and it's a little different for me this year since I have half of my district is new. I have that many new communities in the First Franklin. So I'm happy to be here, and I just want to provide you with the opportunity to tell me what's on your minds. I did bring, and this should have been sent to you as well. This is the list of bills that I did submit this session, so you have it. I just wanted to make sure that you have sort of what my priorities are. I think there are 38 bills here, and then just to give you certainly the opportunity to let me know what's top of mind here in Bernardston, just to make sure that what I'm doing in Boston on Beacon Hill is accurately representing what you're seeing here in town and what you're hearing from the townspeople here in Bernardston.
Great. So you want us to ask you a couple questions?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Put me on.
I know I see one on
Put me
here
on the
for
fire.
for the educational piece. That is a hot topic with all of us, as always.
Yes.
We appreciate the work you're trying to do with that, but if you want to give us a little bit of an update on the future of the rural schools, that would be great.
So this is a hot topic in each one of the
Yes.
communities that I represent, so I have a separate handout for schools.
All right. How convenient that was. It's like it was planned, right?
I know. So, I was the House Chair of the Rural Schools Commission alongside Senator Adam Hines. In July, we put out a report with 36 recommendations to support rural schools across the Commonwealth. Currently in the process of developing an omnibus bill that will bring in as many of those recommendations as we can, while also working with the Healy-Driscoll administration to, as a first step, try to get some of the budgetary items into her very first budget. As a new governor, she has a little bit extra time to submit her first budget, H1. So we're currently working with her team, with the Secretary of Education, to brief them on the rural schools report. Obviously, the biggest ask is a $60 million ask for rural schools, for rural school aid. It's currently funded at $4 million. So it's a big delta between $4 million and $60 million. But we're making that ask to say that this is what our rural schools actually need to be funded at the rural school aid line item to be able to really truly support our students. So that's the biggest ask, but we're trying to get as many of those budgetary items in front of the governor now to see if she will include them in the first budget that she'll be presenting. Also in the process of talking with House leadership to get it into the House budget if we're not able to get it into the governor's budget. But recognizing that it is a big ask, going from $4 million to $60 million. But it's clear that the need is there, and if we're going to support our students and our families and our staff and our teachers, that's an investment that needs to be made. So
Sure.
We're working on that. And there will be opportunities for you to lend support to that legislation and to those budgetary items, so I'll make sure to keep you posted along the way about opportunities where you could be helpful. And I'm going to need to lean on everybody that I can to try to push this forward. So I appreciate you asking about schools first.
It's pretty important to all of us in this area, for sure.
Yeah.
And we didn't introduce to start. This is Jane Dutcher. She's the chair of the Finance Committee in town.
Good to see you.
Anybody else have a question about anything in particular?
What are we gonna do with the school choice?
So school choice, in the report, it was recognized that while it certainly impacts rural communities, I would say disproportionately, it's actually a statewide issue. So the recommendation is in the report is that the state look at the school choice program to see if it is functioning as it was intended when it was originally created. Because clearly here in Western Massachusetts, it is not functioning in the way that it was originally intended, and it's leading to communities, sort of fighting against one another to get students into a school district for that additional $5,000 or $6,000. So I've raised it with the chair of the education committee that this is actually something we need to be looking at statewide, not just for rural communities.
I think it's something we really need to look at. I mean, $5,000 that follows a student is crap, and it's costing you $23,000 to educate a child.
Yeah.
And I think it either has to increase the amount that they give, or it needs to be stopped.
Right.
One or the other, because it's just not, they're bringing in, some schools will say, well, we got to bring some pupils into our school so we can justify having a teacher.
Yeah.
Justifying having a teacher for $5,000 a student when this one sitting beside him is $23,000 doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So I would really hope that somebody would start driving that.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something we lifted up in the rural schools report, but it's clear that the impact is much greater. So it is something that we have to be looking at statewide. Because the way it's impacting rural school districts is very different than the way that it's impacting urban school districts. So it's not something that we as a commission felt that we could make a recommendation on for the entire state, since we only had the rural schools perspective, but it was important for us to lift up and say, this is something that we need to be re-examining.
Legislation shouldn't be one size fits all. You have different characteristics between the east, the western part of the state, and even the center part of the state.
Yeah.
And legislation should reflect that.
Yes.
Instead of just saying this is the way it is. You have so many knee-jerk bills right now that are killing us.
Yeah.
In the rural communities.
Yeah, we took the opportunity in the report to say this is an issue that we need to look at, and I'll keep hammering home at it to ensure that we do re-examine school choice. but I'm not the chair of that committee. But I will continue to talk with her to see if we can do something like that.
Can we tie charter schools into that same conversation?
Charter schools are in there as well, yes.
That's another big one that,
Charter schools, school choice, absolutely.
yeah, 'cause that's another big money drain
Yeah.
for many districts in this
Yeah.
part of the state.
Yeah. And interestingly, one of the recommendations around the non-pupil transportation line item, that's currently funded at $250,000. When I started to dig into this to determine what we were going to request of the Healy Driscoll administration to be included in the budget, it turns out that that line item, if you look at what it should be funded at, it should be funded at $4.2 million. It's currently funded at $250,000. So that's 6% of what that line item should be funded at. And that is another line item that doesn't only impact rural school districts, it impacts districts across the state. So in that particular instance, I'm able to reach out to colleagues across the state and say, this really would be incredibly helpful for rural schools, and it'll be helpful for you. So let's see what we can do together as colleagues across the entire Commonwealth to support closing that gap that will impact all of our school districts. We're trying to get at it in each and every way that we can to send some money to our rural towns, whether it's through the unpaved roads legislation, through rural schools, or however we can get money back into our small towns. Because when we look at our budgets, $100,000 can go a really long way, and that's not the way a larger city thinks about it.
Right.
$100,000 is a drop in the bucket.
Yep.
If you send $100,000 to any of our communities, it's incredible.
Yep. That's
So
true.
we're trying to bring that scale into the minds of people and just make sure that they understand that we don't need a lot, and we'll stretch every penny
Right.
as far as we can stretch it. But we do need something.
Anybody have any other questions along the lines of education while we're talking about that piece?
The only other thing I would say is that there needs to be some study or something going on to control school committees. It's, the way I look at it, it's out of control. The biggest problems we've had in our district has been the school committees. And when you're looking at a teacher's contract, and this isn't, it hasn't been verified.
Approved by the state yet. Hasn't been approved by the overseer of the state yet.
But teachers are looking for a 6% increase over 3 years. That's 2%, 2%, 2%. And you got some of our administration people that are going to get a 40% or 50% increase this year. That's wrong. That is totally wrong. And, and people don't have a say about it. What the administration part gets paid is just incredible compared to what a teacher gets paid. And I think DESE needs to look at that and make some rules. Select boards should have some sort of say in what the administration people get paid, like your superintendent and that type of thing. Select boards and finance committees working together should have a say in that to help control it. We've got a $5.2 million administration budget with 600 kids.
And Jane probably has the numbers better, but like in our local community, our schools, between our tech school and our public school, take up on an average year between 58 and 62% of our whole budget. Where 18, 19 years ago, that was a 50-50. The state has dropped the ball in many areas of all the regulations that are unfunded mandates. I mean, that's a huge effect on our budget. And our town employees, we balance our budget on their backs every single year. I know you've heard it before.
Oh yeah.
It's good to hear it again.
No, I mean, it's true. And I think the thing that makes it, Western Mass in particular unique is, we see it across the Commonwealth that town budgets are often 60% of the town budget is going towards education. What's different about our rural communities is the fact that our tax base is our tax base. What we have is what we have. There's no additional job growth. There's no businesses that are coming in that are going to save us. Who's sitting at this table? Who's in our community? Who owns our homes? That's who's paying for this. And many communities are bumping up against that Prop 2.5 limit. That is what makes it more difficult out here. That makes it more challenging. And so, that is something else that we addressed with the chair of the education committee, to say that it is different out here because of that fact, and that we are bearing a really disproportionate burden when it comes to funding schools, because we're having to make really difficult choices between, another bill that we've offered is for public safety complexes
That's
and
the next
municipal buildings. We're having to make difficult choices between buying a fire truck, or improving our public safety, putting in a salt shed, things like that, and also ensuring that our children have the very best educational opportunities that they possibly can have. So, those are really difficult choices for people like you,
Right.
and so I think if in this package, in terms of the legislation that we've offered, I'm trying to get at all of those pieces so that we can provide some additional support for our
The
local
school
communities.
budget also somebody needs to address the school budget. Our superintendent stood up at a meeting recently and told the people attending that you pass
Bottom line
a
budget.
bottom line budget, and I can do anything I want to with that money. I don't have to use it the way this budget is laid out. And that is totally wrong. I'd like to use a different word, but it certainly is not what the public thinks when they go to budget meetings and listen to budget presentations, that it's meaningless because I can do whatever I want to once you pass the budget. That needs to be addressed, either by DESE, by the legislature, by somebody, that they have to adhere to the budget.
See,
The
we
line
have to,
item
we have to
in
do
the
that as a town, and then towards the end of the year, we have a small window where we can move money around a little bit from an account that is fat to help out an account that is going under. But I think that's just in June.
That's been expanded. The timeline for that is more generous than it used to be,
But there's still-
it takes a vote of
Yeah.
both of our committees, both finance and the select board, to move money from one account to another. And apparently, those rules don't apply to the school.
Yeah. I appreciate you flagging that.
And if we want to move on, our fire chief happened to walk in, so it's good timing. Peter Shedd.
Nice to see you, Peter.
If you want to
Chief, good to see you.
talk a little bit about the Public Safety Building Authority proposal that's been out there. I know
Yes.
Pete's heard a lot about it.
So this is legislation that Senator Comerford and I introduced last session. It is a public safety and municipal building authority. So it's much like the Massachusetts Library or the school building authorities, but it is focused on public safety and municipal buildings. This is an idea that's been kicking around for a while, but no one has really identified the pay for. How are we going to pay for a program like this to continue to operate? So Senator Comerford and I did some research along with the auditor at the time, Auditor Bump, who produced a really good report about how Western Massachusetts has been left behind in terms of infrastructure improvements. And we were able to drill down to figure out a line item where we would be able to pay for this program. The way that it's currently proposed is you could fund public safety buildings. Last session, we said municipal office buildings, and what we heard back from communities was, well, we want to improve our office buildings, but what about the DPW facility or the salt shed or whatever it happens to be? So we changed it up, we tweaked it a little bit this session just to say municipal building. So any building that is operated and owned by a municipality. So this would provide funding for a community to be able to build a public safety complex or improve or build a municipal building. This is a direct response to concerns that we've seen from communities. I was able to get the chair of the public safety committee out to Ashfield and Conway. He had an hour and a half, I think it was. So I had to pick two communities right next to each other in pretty bad shape, and that happened to be Ashfield and Conway. where, if you're in Conway and you're in their public safety facility, you have to open the garage door to be able to get in front of the fire truck. If you want to go to the bathroom, you open up the door and the toilet and the sink are on your left, and on the right is an open wall that leads into the bay where the fire truck is situated. In Ashfield, they saw that the police station doesn't have a secure area to hold people. You get handcuffed to a bar that is put onto a wall.
We used to do that.
So it was a real eye opener for the chair of the Public Safety Committee, who happens to be from Springfield. But right now we're in the process of, we've just started the 2-year session. We've introduced legislation, and in the next couple of weeks, the committee assignments will be made for the House. I don't know if the chair of the Public Safety Committee, who came out last session, will be the same chair. If it is, I certainly gave him quite a tour, and he understands what we're facing here. If it's a new chair, I want to make sure that we bring them out so that they see the same sort of just the state of the infrastructure out here. It's not only the fact that the facilities themselves are failing, it's also the fact that they're so outdated that they don't fit current fire apparatus. And so our towns end up having to do custom builds on fire trucks that will fit into these buildings, which ends up costing our communities more. So there's a lot of moving pieces to that, but there seemed to be a lot of momentum, at least around the public safety building piece of that legislation. So we'll see what happens this session.
You feel that was statewide too, that support?
That is statewide, yeah. But the bill was reported favorably out of committee, which is a good step last session. It didn't move to the next step where it would come to the floor for a House vote. When it was reported out of committee, it did not include a rural carve-out. One of the things that we want to make sure of is if we introduce any sort of new funding program, that there is a carve-out for rural communities so that we are guaranteed a certain amount of funding. So when we reintroduced this bill this session, we ensured that rural carve-out was in that language, because otherwise we would just have large urban communities applying for the funding and nothing coming our way. And we really need this funding.
And they have the support to have the infrastructure to help support the research the state's asking for to get that funding. Right. Where we would have to hire it out. Yeah. Because we don't have the staff to do those types of things.
That's exactly right. And we've made some progress on that. With housing and economic development, with the MassWorks program, they did a one-stop so that communities only had to submit one application for the myriad of programs that they offer. That's a step in the right direction. And it's a point that I made on the side of the road in Huntington, where we brought them out and we said, Chip, who is trying to plow the roads and maintain the roads, is also in the position of having to apply for the grants. So we don't have professional grant writers. No. And while Franklin Regional Council of Governments is doing everything they can to help, Chip and Huntington can't possibly be out there maintaining the roads and also applying for grants. That's how thinly we're stretched. And so we were very lucky that they were responsive in terms of streamlining that grant process and really helping communities to be able to access the funds. The other thing that we did as a delegation, and we'll be doing this again this year, is a grant workshop, so that any community that's interested in learning more about state funding streams that are available can sign up for these grant workshops, and we have the state agencies come in virtually and talk about the funding that's available and how you can apply for that funding too.
This is done over Zoom?
This has been done over Zoom, yes. I think we'll keep it over Zoom. It's just easier, to get people from Boston, and we're all pretty much used to it. But we were able to increase the number of awards to Western Massachusetts significantly. The fact that we got $1 million going to the Bridge of Flowers for that infrastructure repair was extraordinary, and we were able to get those state officials out for a visit in advance, so it was in their brain that this was an economic driver in the region, and there really is no other funding stream for it. So that was something that we were able to deliver on and really able to make a difference. So we'll keep at that. And if there's ever anything that you want state officials to see, or if you have a project that you think that there's a good match for, and I can help in bringing them out here to take a look at it, just let me know. I love bringing people from Boston out here to see how we live and the challenges that we're facing. So I'm happy to bring people out here anytime.
We've had projects, and we tried to get people out here for the fire department, for the fire station.
Yeah,
You're well aware of that, and that brings up our next question. Why the heck do we have bond bills when they absolutely amount to nothing? They got maybe one or two things on that bond bill that they're going to fund, and even though it says Bernardston shall receive $1 million, it was a joke. I mean, and when you talk, just going a little bit further than that, when you think about that and you ask the question, why are people so upset with government today? I don't care if it's Democrat, Republican, what it is. That's one of the reasons, because we have these foolish things that come out and they mean nothing. They mean nothing. We don't need that anymore. We just need the truth and move forward. That's as simple as that. I mean,
Well, that's what was important about this piece of legislation that we offered, is that there's money attached to it. We know where the money was coming from, and that was important to Senator Comerford and myself in offering that legislation. As I said, it's been offered in the past, but there's been no pay for. If you're gonna do a program of that size, there has to be something behind it. Otherwise, it's just an idea. So we'll see what happens. We've put the idea forward with the funding stream, and we'll see what happens there. But I will say, the MBLC and the MSBA program, even once they were established, took several years to get into place. So in terms of managing expectations, even if we are able to get that legislation past the session, it will likely take several years to get that up and running and in place. So we recognize the urgency that our communities are feeling, and we'll be doing everything we can to get this through the session.
is there any thought of, I see your report here, this is yours, Joanne's got hers, all these bills that are put forth. Is there any thought of going back and correcting the ones that we already have that are meaningless? You have the DCAM. I mean, that kills small communities. We don't have companies in our area that are DCAM certified, so we have to go to Gardner or Worcester or Springfield to try to get contractors, and that just adds more money to the project. You have prevailing wage. I mean, and that's another thing that we just don't understand. If I want to find out what the prevailing wage is, I have to have a project that's ready to go out. I just can't call up and say, hey, what's the prevailing wage on this stuff here? Oh, we can't give it that to you because it changes. We only get raises once a year, our people. How can they just keep changing the rates throughout the year on prevailing wage? You really want to do something? Tackle prevailing wage and get rid of it. And especially for, again, I go back to that thing where what goes on in the east doesn't fit out here in the west.
I think, it's in terms of the conversations that I've been having specifically on transportation infrastructure, and something that I'm pretty passionate about, having worked for Congressman Olver. We have the small bridge program, and now there's the culvert program. Those are great programs that are out there. So to the extent that we're able to get more funding into those, that's a good thing. Recognizing that many of our DPWs can do a lot of this work really well. Another program and a bill that I've offered this session is to codify the Winter Recovery Assistance Program. It's the WRAP program. So Bernardston will have seen an increase over and above Chapter 90 because of the WRAP program. It's not been used every single year. It's really been used sporadically. by the Baker administration. It is based on roadway mileage. So, Chapter 90 has several factors that go into the formula, including economic development, roadway miles, and I think that there's one other piece there. But it doesn't really get at our rural communities. We don't get a lot of Chapter 90 funding. The RAP program, in addition to Chapter 90, provided a lot of funding for rural communities because it's based on roadway mileage. It came to Bernardston in a chunk of money in October, and you were able to spend it on whatever you felt like you needed.
We just signed for that reimbursement tonight.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that, how much did you get?
It's like 73,000.
Yes, that's great. That's great money. And then that was $100 million that we provided into that program, in addition to the $200 million that we had in Chapter 90 funds.
74,340.
74,340.
Yeah, that's 70. So if we're able to put it, the legislation that I introduced took away the winter part of it, because I feel like as soon as you put winter into it, there becomes some subjectivity in terms of what winter looks like. We renamed it the Local Roads Investment Program, and the hope is that we can put that into law so that if we're not going to change the Chapter 90 formula, let's put some additional funding that is focused on roadway mileage that will really deliver funding to Western Mass communities. The other piece of legislation that I've been working with the administrator of Mass Highway on is an unpaved roads bill. Some of our communities here in Western Massachusetts, I think it's Shutesbury, 60% of their total roadway mileage is unpaved roads. So if you got Chapter 90 funds and then you're trying to do a roadway project, you're likely going to put it into your paved roads because it's more expensive. And a lot of times you have to bank multiple years of Chapter 90 to get that project done. What goes by the wayside are improvements to unpaved roads and the maintenance of unpaved roads during mud season and the more frequent storm events that we're having. So we're looking at whether or not we can get some additional assistance to communities that have that high percentage of unpaved roads, to be able to get you some additional funding to either maintain them or improve them. Some communities might need a full road reconstruction project with some of the most current technology that will prevent the sorts of mud season, washboarding and everything else that we see. So in terms of those transportation infrastructure issues that you're pointing to, I'm trying to get at it in every way that I can that really focuses in on what we're seeing in our rural communities and trying to get some funding in.
What we're seeing and what you're seeing is probably two different things, but I'm saying prevailing wages really hurts.
Yeah.
Really hurts. When you talk about unpaved roads, you need to be careful. If you want to get like New Hampshire did and pave all of their back roads, years went by, they found they were in trouble, and guess what? They had to dig it up and put them back to dirt because...
No, this isn't proposing that you pave them, it's that you improve them. Because a lot of times, right now there's this new micro mesh, technology that can be put in. But our towns are dumping stone onto roadways over and over and over again to make sure that they're passable during these storm events or during our multiple mud seasons that we're now having. So why not fix them with some funding so that we're not continuing to waste those funding and our DPW's time? They're busting their butts to make sure that these roadways are passable. So let's give them the tools that they need to improve their roadways to make sure that they're not having to keep dumping that stone in that same spot time and time again.
It brings us around a bubble all the way around to what folks are facing today with the heat, oil, with the gas. I just looked at mine from year to year. My heat and oil alone is $1,800 more. And I know I've read a report from you and Joanne Comerford that you're working on
those are in
trying
here
to
too.
fix that.
Yeah.
And it really needs to be done through putting regulations on utilities so they just can't go haywire like they're going right now, because you talk a lot about helping seniors and families that are below the poverty level.
Yep.
When we went from $7 an hour to $15 an hour, we just moved that poverty level up to now it's basically $15 an hour. And then we read that there's somebody in the eastern part of the state that thinks that maybe it ought to go to $20 an hour. Well, that's just, sooner or later we got to start looking at why are things costing us so much money.
No,
That's a problem with inflation. Things cost too much, and then we run into these problems. And I think you guys working on that oil in the electric part of it,
Yeah.
I think is a great thing. How far you get with it, I don't know, but you will definitely get, if you were doing something right now and asking for support, you could probably get
Yeah.
quite a few buses to go down
Well,
to the State House.
Is there any, like, is there any precedent? We've
No.
definitely, I think we're definitely pissing off the utilities with that legislation. So
Well,
in my
I appreciate-
mind,
I
that probably
appreciate
says
that.
we're going in the right direction.
I appreciate that, but it really hurts. It really hurts. And when you talk about fixed incomes, and most seniors are on fixed incomes either through their pensions or their Social Security. They got money set aside and they thought they were going to be all set.
Yeah.
Well, we just keep taking away. The government keeps
Yeah.
taking away from
Yeah.
Now, even your investments, I don't know how many more ways they can find to tax $1. But really look at investments to see how much you get taxed on that $1 that you invest. It's incredible. So it's just, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. That's why I say going back and looking at the old bills that are in place and fix them. And saying, this isn't working, let's get rid of this and change it. No, it's nice to add new ones, but the old ones need to be fixed. But that's just a thought. I'm a miserable old person.
It's the truest statement.
Tyler, mark that comment.
Yeah, really.
But
Flag the tape.
I don't like the sugarcoat and I don't like to waste a lot of time.
I don't either. That's good. We're going to be just fine.
There you go.
Let me add to his comments. I think there should be a ceiling at which point a town does not have to pay prevailing wage. We should be able to go out and do whatever we need to do with our local contractors who are just as good and sometimes much better than DCAM contractors. And we should not have to pay prevailing wage because nobody in this county is making prevailing wage.
No, that's something that somebody has actually also brought up to me, especially with the costs, the project costs increasing. So, happy to look into that one.
I know that a lot of people have looked at it. I can remember years ago. I've been sitting in this seat for quite a few years now.
That one right there?
Pretty much.
Senator Rosenberg, when we were asking about what,
They go out their own chair.
when we were asking about prevailing wage, he said, "I have fought that," and he says, "and I don't even want to hear it anymore." So
Well,
It's a tough
and he
road
was,
for the
he was,
unions.
yeah, he was.
you can't let the East dictate to us. They could have their rules there, but we got to have our rules out here.
Well-
What Jane said is a good point.
Yeah.
Maybe just having
Yeah.
raising a ceiling on that, so we have more flexibility
Yeah.
would work.
Well, if Senator Rosenberg made the fight, and I don't know that I'm going to get much further than him.
Well, okay, to take a $1 million project, we could probably get it completed if we could use our own contractors. But when you add prevailing wage and stuff, now that gets up closer to $1.5 million, and then you add if it has to have DCAM, you're up to $2 million. And now I understand it with a $21 million project, like the big library in Greenfield or the big fire station you're putting on there. But I'm talking, we're not doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
When I said ceiling, I was referring to the size of the town and
Okay.
the budget of the town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, we kind of just make things happen.
I know. It's incredible what we're able to do in our towns.
You know, got a nice town here. We got
do.
some great people that live here and people that care.
Well, I'm excited to represent Bernardston. I really am, and I am glad to be here tonight. And I hope that you know that if you ever need anything, you can call, you can text, you can email. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions about a bill or if you have ideas. I just hope that we can keep the lines of communication open, and if there's ever any way that I can be helpful, please don't give it a second of thought to contact me.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
The millionaire's tax.
Yes.
What's the word on the street in Boston of how they're really truly going to spend this? If it's really truly going to be on schools and roads, and are they going to divert some of the funding that's currently going to roads and schools and just backfill it with this millionaire's tax?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's certainly a need. I mean, we saw that there's a need for additional funding for schools and for transportation. It's one of the reasons why I'm making such a hard push with the Healy-Driscoll administration on this rural school aid. I mean, $60 million, when you look at the money that's coming in from the millionaire's tax, is a drop in the bucket, you know? So why not take the opportunity with this additional funding that's coming in to make our rural schools whole? The Student Opportunity Act was desperately needed. It absolutely was. But our rural schools didn't benefit. So, you know, I'm going to be fighting for that fair share for rural communities. We just had a Regional Transit Authority meeting yesterday. I am the co-chair of the Regional Transit Authority caucus, and we also talked about getting our fair share of transportation funding for public transportation, like FRTA, to be able to be innovative in terms of how we can serve rural communities, because fixed bus routes aren't going to work.
Right.
Aren't going to work out here. We need the on-demand, micro transit. But they're stretched so thin with the funding that they receive, they can't be innovative despite their best efforts, and they're doing it now to the extent that they can. But we really need to make sure that we're providing additional transportation funding so that our communities can actually be served when it comes to public transportation. People are shocked when they hear that we don't have public transportation in evenings or on weekends. They cannot believe it. It's the same as when we told them we didn't have broadband. That's the sort of, we just have to bring that up and really be targeted in what our requests are and why we need some of that money. So I can tell you that I'm fighting for every penny of that additional funding that's coming in, and hopefully we'll be able to bring that forward.
I mean, that's a good point. You can put all the low-income housing you want in our community, but where are they going to be able to walk to if there's no transit in our community? Or work, that too.
If you
And
talk about
childcare.
economic mobility, and you don't have housing and you don't have transportation.
Right.
And it used to be years ago, you had taxis. I mean, you had to pay for that ride, but we don't even have taxis anymore.
Yeah. No Uber, no ride shares of any kind.
Well, that's the thing. I talked to him about Uber, and I have to say, one of the greatest things that I was able to accomplish, not one of the greatest, it's just a bill I was able to get through last session. Our communities were having to appropriate the 10 cents that we got from Uber and Lyft fees.
Right.
If you wanted to spend that money, you had to go to town meeting to spend
Right.
10 cents.
We refused to cash a check. We just shredded it.
Well, we
It
were
was
able
like
to.
39 cents.
Yeah, we got a bill passed to say that's not okay. It's a waste of our town's time, and we shouldn't have to be going to town meeting
Right.
to spend 39 cents.
Right.
So we were able to change that, and I think that was a step in the right direction in terms of saying some of these things don't work for our small towns, and to the extent that we are able to fix them, let's fix them. And I think you'll see from the bills that I've offered, a lot of them are intended to address a lot of the challenges that our rural communities are facing.
Great. Anybody else?
Appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
Really?
I appreciate being here.
It's
I'm in
not the-
Deerfield, so
yeah.
I'm real
Yeah.
close.
It's not the first, you're not the first representative to come out, but you're the first one that's come out to join a selectmen's meeting.
Right.
Since I've been on the board.
Well,
Which is a long time.
Yeah. And
I appreciate you all. I mean, it's been a rough couple of years. I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And it's been hard. When I was first elected, I was in for a year, and then COVID hit, it's been like that ever since. And for you all who are serving your communities very directly, and I recognize that it's been tough.
Yeah.
And so I just hope you view me as a partner going forward, and just don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay, we will.
Okay.
For sure.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Appreciate it.
In that regard, I hope that having Zoom meetings never goes away.
Yeah. We're working on that.
It really, I mean,
Does add to it.
it's really important in the rural
Yes.
areas.
Yeah. There's a bill right now to continue remote hearings, and there's a hardship waiver that's built in, but it has to be on an economic basis. And so I'm trying to work with the sponsor of that bill to say it might not be economic, it might be broadband issues, because if it states that if you do Zoom, that you have to have your camera on the whole time.
Right.
And a lot of times we don't have the bandwidth to keep our cameras on the whole time. You might have to have your camera off.
Yeah,
So the bill is good in that it tries to accomplish what it is that you're talking about, while also recognizing the challenges that rural communities face. And it just needs a couple of.
The way it's written right now, we wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to do it. We wouldn't be able to afford to do it. It's so it needs to be really
Yeah.
simplified.
Yeah. We're working on that.
I
And-
sit on a 6-town school
Yeah.
district board,
Mm-hmm.
and we continued our meetings right through COVID.
It's
But
amazing.
we come from all over.
It's really
And we're all
incredible.
hoping that we're going to continue Zoom meetings because we've gotten used to them. We're able to accomplish more. Some of us are able to go to 3 or 4 meetings a day because you don't have to travel between
Oh,
meetings.
I hear you.
Yeah,
If I don't have to go into Boston, I get 6 hours of my life back a day.
right.
And that's important.
It is.
I mean, we're not on the transit system in Boston.
Yeah. But also, I hope gets more people involved, especially young people. I mean, we need young people involved in government. And when you have kids and jobs and everything else, Zoom meetings can really help to bring more people in. So I'll certainly be working to.
You're very correct when you said we need more young people in positions, leadership positions.
Are you saying you want to retire?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, you are.
You become, your ideas become kind of stagnant,
Right.
and some
Right.
new ideas really
good
help
thing.
out. And sometimes you have to give them a boot and say, "Hey, you're going off the wrong direction." But
And I don't know why Jana Means here, but she's a rock star. And we have a bill with Jan to
Okay.
try to save our town some money,
Okay.
which is in here too. But
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate you having the time and,
Appreciate it.
and
Thank
allowing
you.
me to come over. All right, we'll see you later.
See you
Good to
later.
meet you all.
Thank you.
Forget my name, but that wasn't up there.
I already wrote it down.
That's all right. She can go home and watch the video now. Okay, next up on our list.
You can tell them about our battle.
Under new business, Franklin Regional Retirement Board COLA increase. We all received a memo a while back
Yeah.
in regards to that. We have a copy in our packet tonight. Dale Klowicki from the board has asked the towns that are served by the Franklin Regional Retirement Board to consider an additional 2% COLA increase in the budget. Request is based on state law that only permits a maximum of 3% annual increase. Social Security Administration's COLA is currently 8.7%. Special legislation in the last session at the State House offered this additional 2% as a compromise, but it requires each select board to vote it independently at an open meeting if we so choose to go along with their recommendation. Lou, do you have any side notes on that I didn't just state?
Mr. Chairman, you concisely explained exactly what's going on there. Due to the Social Security's COLA at 8.7, I'm not sure what the genesis was for that additional legislation, but apparently somebody in the State House probably should have asked Natalie about that. 3% was deemed not enough, so the state finally hammered out an additional 2%. The 3% increase is the max allowable by state law, and obviously there's a discrepancy there, and nobody would love to be short by 5.7%, so it's at the board's pleasure. And then Dale's going to poll the towns who approve this, and if a sufficient number are in favor of it, they'll move it forward.
So
This would be 2% in addition to what they've already budgeted.
Yes.
Listen to the 3. Go ahead, Stan.
it's 2% on top of,
The 3, that's my understanding of it, yep. For this 1 year, for FY '24.
Yeah, and in your packet, there's a table
Yeah,
that indicates,
our town
What-
specifically.
yeah, what the cost would be out to, I believe, FY '26. So it certainly adds to it, but to an extent that's going to depend on the number of retirees
Correct.
that we're funding.
well, it says an additional 3.4% each year, is what I'm reading. So if it's an additional 3.4% each year, and does that mean it's an additional 3.4% that are 3%, making it 6.4%?
I would have to dig a little deeper, Mr. Garland.
I think we need to have a little bit more information.
Yeah, we do have a little bit of time to get that information. We don't have to have this done until June 30th. Not that we want to wait till the last minute, but
So this is a COLA for our retirees,
yes.
okay? God bless, because most retirements don't get COLAs. Huh?
I've never seen one. Might be
Yeah.
You guys want to wait and get a little more information on what that, on the chart where it says the 3.4, additional 3.4% each year? When it-
Yeah, I wouldn't even
Everything
mind
else
if-
says
I wouldn't
2%.
even mind if he came on the Zoom and talked to us about it at the next meeting, if that was possible. I'm seeing a lot of circles on this paper and a lot of arrows drawn back and forth, and
That's something we can set up, Lou? Even if it's a special meeting to have with them at some point, a Zoom call?
I will reach out to Dale first thing tomorrow.
yeah, I think it's a good thing to give the retirees a COLA, but I just don't understand what
What we're truly approving.
I'm voting on.
3.4% is referring to the town's assessment. The 3.4% is referring to the assessment on the towns, not to the COLA that goes into the retirees.
Okay, so that,
check.
Added
well, I'm
cost,
hoping it's gonna go to some, it's all gonna go to the retiree.
Well, yeah, but the assessment is
any input,
based
Ken?
on several things.
Well, we'll set up a call and see if he can straighten us out. Everybody good with that?
Yes, yes, I'm good with that.
Who sent me this? I think?
So we'll table that till we have a little more information. Next up on our agenda was a transfer station super site closure. Collection site at the transfer station has been closed by the solid waste district. After discussing with Brian Miner, the impact to local residents will be negligible. Most of the items that were collected at the super site can also be taken to points of sale, i.e. compact fluorescent light bulbs can be taken to a Home Depot, etc. Brian Miner and myself and Lou had several conversations this week. We do want to, and Jan has reached out to us, willing to come and sit and talk with us all to explain what we need to do if we want to continue with that service. We're trying to come up with a date at this point when Brian couldn't be here tonight, when Brian can be here along with Jan, so we can have a discussion about what that truly means to open it back up or not. And I know we're trying to nail down some dates. Some emails were going back and forth
Right.
today with recommended dates. So for everybody listening and for you folks, there's more to come on that. Hopefully in the next, we're trying to set up for the next meeting. Truly.
Yeah,
If we can.
I think Jan said she would be available to the
Okay,
March
that's fine.
meetings.
So we can have more discussions on that. But currently, right now, today, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that collection site is currently closed.
Correct.
Yeah. You guys good with waiting to have a discussion with Brian and Jan
Yes.
and us? To have both sides to say what we think is going on?
Yeah, we'd like to get the
Yeah.
site open and be back in business. If I can just add,
Sure.
if residents have questions, there are other locations they can bring those items, the oil and paint, so feel free to call our office.
Okay.
Or be in touch with the solid waste district, and we'll make sure people are taken care of.
Did you pick that up, Tyler, or not? Did that come through? Okay. Just wanted to make sure it picked you up on the
Yeah,
microphone.
I know, I did, project.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll see you when we see you, and if
Yeah, Lou will square up that
feel
date.
free to reach out. I just wanted to be here in case there were questions
Yep.
that came up.
Okay,
Thanks, Jen.
appreciate
All
it.
right, take care.
Thank
Thank you. Next up, we have a COA appointment. Jen Reynolds has submitted the name and application of Sandra Holzhauer of 196 Parmenter Road to serve as a part-time van driver. And the offer letter is here for us, just is waiting on our approval. Ken, I assume you had seen this before?
No, I have not.
Uh-oh.
Shame on,
What's everybody's pleasure on appointing a part-time driver as needed? Sandra Holzhauer of 196 Parmenter Road.
I'll make a motion to appoint Sandra Holzhauer to the Bernardston Council agent as a part-time van driver.
second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up, the issuance of a temporary housing order. It's come to the attention from the Board of Health in town that we need to issue a temporary housing permit to the Raymonds at 178 Turners Falls Road for the temporary housing they have over there after the tragic fire.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Lou, as I said, if there is a form that ends up needing to be signed, just give me a call and I'll come in and sign it.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, we have under old business is the second part of the Comcast agreement. We finally have the intergovernmental agreement for the expansion of the broadband under the mutual partnership between Comcast, Mass Broadband, not MAD, and the town of Bernardston. And there are several properties listed specifically in here, street addresses. I'm just going to read the names of the roads that are going to be expanded on. There's going to be expansion on Oaks Road, Huckle Hill Road, Fox Hill Road, West Mountain Road, Eden Trail Branch, Eden Trail, and that's all. There's about 53 properties, 54 properties altogether that are affected by this agreement. So this is just the official lawyer copies of, unless you guys want, I'm not going to read the entire agreement. We all have it in our packets.
We go along with the expansion from Comcast.
I don't want you to read it.
Okay.
Second.
Any other discussion about the intergovernmental agreement with Comcast, Mass Broadband, and the town of Bernardston to fulfill their obligation for the expansion? Just one signature, Lou, all three of us?
All three, please.
I guess it's just right there. Next up on our agenda, town credit card policy. Treasurer Susan Bovee has drafted a municipal credit card policy. She needs the policy agreed upon so that she can continue pursuing a town credit card. A copy of the policy is in the packet, and I have a copy to be signed. This was developed with some protections around a credit card use if we were to get it. I don't know if everybody's had an opportunity to read through it yet. There is a document in the back of it for the employees that could potentially be a card holder. That would have to be approved by Lou. They would have to sign a statement saying they're agreeing to these rules as put forth by the town of Bernardston.
Right there, I'd like to see a change in that it also has to be approved by the select board before we give a credit card to somebody. Has this gone out to town council?
No, that came right from the treasurer.
Might want to run that by the town council and make sure there's nothing that's, I agree with it. I think we need to have this ASAP. But that would be one of my things. I haven't looked through the whole
I
thing.
mean, it's a legal document once they sign it. And would it be easy enough to add another signature that we have to, before you can say it's okay, we have a little insight into it?
Whatever the board's pleasure is, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I think
Ken.
it should be that way, because you're making sure then that you've got your bases covered and
Ken, do you have some insight into that?
No, I do not.
I think it's a good policy, just we
Yeah.
should make sure it's all, it covers a lot, which is a good thing. We run
Wondering
it,
where she got it from.
run it right by Donna.
does
Shouldn't
Jane
take too
have a
much.
copy of it?
No.
She can have.
Can we get her one so she can peruse it between now and our next meeting? So
I
we
can give you the sign, this one we were gonna sign back
Oh,
if you
okay.
want.
Yep.
And then we can, if she's got any questions, you can fire them off. So you got one day to look at it, so she can fire the information off.
Can I
to-
choose the day?
Yes.
There you go, I like that.
Just make it the day before it goes to the town council.
So we'll table that for legal review.
She's on vacation.
And thank Susan, because I think
Yes.
She's leaving on Saturday morning. I spoke to her today.
It's a pretty thorough document, so it is pretty good. Next up, ARPA expenditures for
Why don't we,
BES.
skip, we could,
Wanna go right to
Mr.
Pete?
Chairman, could we go to Pete first? And
I guess we could. You wanna come up, Pete?
he's standing
Well, it
there
depends
like
what you
he
want.
wants to hit somebody and making me nervous.
Basketball game goes Saturday.
I was hoping he was gonna come up when we had Natalie here, but
I did, I beat her up on
we
the
couldn't
stairs.
coax him up here.
I beat her out up on stage.
Okay, so when's the fire station coming? Welcome, Peter Shedd. You wanna talk to us about some things going on, changes up in Leiden that may affect you and us and your
Yeah.
fire department?
It made me sort of uncomfortable. I met with one of the Leiden selectmen and one of the, I don't know, it's the
Public Safety Commission.
Commission or whatever. I definitely think I got a gist of what they want and everything else, but I mean, I just want to make sure you guys know my loyalty is here in Bernardston and to you guys and everything else, and I just didn't know. I've talked to Jimmy since, whatever, where the boundaries are as far as me negotiating with them or anything else. I mean, it's, I know eventually you'll have to come to you guys, I assume, for approval, or I'm not 100% sure how the police department work theirs or anything else, but.
What happened?
The bottom line is they had 3 people and their chief just resigned. So they're down to 2, and one of them is only a part-time resident of Leiden, so they're in a real tough position. I have talked to the surrounding towns. All the surrounding towns have agreed to honor the mutual aid agreement, although they are technically in violation of it. But I mean,
For how long?
They all want to be good neighbors.
For how long?
That's up in the air.
Are they asking?
We had a sort of a similar situation over a year ago in Vernon, Vermont. They basically lost all the command staff and they just had firefighters left. So after meeting with the selectmen in Brattleboro and Guilford and Bernardston, we all sat down and agreed, all right, well, we'll come in, we split the town up, you know, Bernardston covered a section, Guilford covered a section, and Brattleboro covered a section. And to keep them in agreement and give them a chance to restructure, retrain, you know, and people that do it and everything else. And that, I think probably close to 6 months that we did it, so before they started responding with vehicles again and everything else. But they are very progressive in their actions and what they want to do and everything else. I think what they're looking at is if they get some newer equipment and get some newer trucks, you know, and some good leadership, you know, that then the people will come and fill in and they'll eventually have their people back, so.
So what is their ask of you at this point?
I believe what they're asking for is they're asking me to become their chief or
So-
administrative aid in something, in some sort, or way or whatever. And as Lloyd said, I mean, If we don't come forward and do it, I mean, we're basically going to be either forced upon us or coming under mutual aid because we've had such a long partnership with them to help cover.
Well, I think the town
Anything
of
else?
Leiden would need to step up a little bit, knowing they can't fulfill their mutual aid agreement and offer some sort of compensation to the towns that are covering them. That's just right off the top. I mean, I'm not against helping the local community that's our neighbor, but we
Well,
just
and
can't go on for
if
2
I
or
can
3
add
years.
something, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, the Public Safety Commission is planning on meeting next Wednesday morning here at 11 o'clock. They'll be meeting here, and I've been asked to set up a Zoom link for the meeting. So this might be a really crucial topic to bring up, you know, as long as we have Liz here, and Bill Glayback is usually at the meetings.
I mean, you guys are much more involved than that. It's a daytime meeting. What are your
Not
thoughts?
really, we're involved in it, we're all involved in a police one only
Right.
because there's a grant that is writing this. There isn't a grant for the.
Yes, that grant covers all of public safety, as
Huh?
far as Leiden is concerned. It's a public safety grant. Leiden looks at that, it's a public safety grant, and it does include fire and
EMS?
ambulance and police.
And not just
And
that,
emergency management.
but
Yes.
where Peter mentioned that Liz Kidder had gotten involved, she is, I guess, the chair of their Public Safety Commission. So to me, it would be a natural to bring it up at a meeting where she is already going to be. You know, at least to get a feel for, because, you know, Peter has some details, but, you know, if Stan and Ken, you have questions about it, that might be the time to
So
ask
they've
those
got
questions.
another grant on top of the police one.
No,
It's a
no,
combined
it's all one.
but it covered everything.
It's all
It wasn't
one.
just police, that
And
grant.
and they occasionally mention the other services when we were meeting, but they haven't put a lot of emphasis on that, just to say it's coming down the road, we're gonna be talking about that too.
Yeah. So I think the fire department is the final link or step or whatever in the thing, because I believe they have signed the ambulance agreement. I know Bill has been working a lot with the emergency management people, and they've been pretty active and doing a lot of planning and doing a lot of the MEMA stuff that's required and everything else, so. I think just down to the fire department. And I agree 100%, I mean, with Lloyd, and I think Ken made the same thing, the statement here a little while ago, is that, you know, it's not our obligation to provide fire service and fund everything free of charge. You know, so I don't know how much you want me to look into that, or do you want to work up a contract thing, sort of like the police is, that we, a fee for service
That was.
type of agreement, or do you want like a blank amount that each year that could come to the town, we could maybe earmark for fire truck or fire equipment or something, I mean, just to reimburse the town of Bernardston in some way for being the good neighbor.
It's a lot longer process on that. Now, we had professional help putting together the agreement with Leiden and Bernardston on the police, and that's just, hopefully it's going to be somewhat wrapped up on the 15th, and we'd need to have that type of thing as this as well. I would say that we would do this, I feel we do the same thing the police department did. You would get together with the Leiden folks, have them, and you talk about how they're gonna compensate you, how they're gonna pay for the firefighters, and all that good stuff. What kind of agreement can be worked out there, and then you can bring that back to the select board, and we'll also bring it up on the 15th to see what kind of help these people can have putting this thing. But bottom line, it's going to be on your shoulders, is if it's something that you think that your department can get into and do. Because then you'll have to have a station up there, and
And the station's a key thing, and I understand where that's coming from. And that's gonna, if we talked about before, the ISO rating, it's the insurance ratings for the town,
Yeah.
and where your fire department comes in. Leiden, I believe, is a 9. The lowest number is a 10. When you get to a 10, the insurance companies can either pull out, or they can just skyrocket your insurance rate. They're under basically freelance. And you may know that for sure, how it works.
do not,
mean,
no.
if you're a certain rating, or 6 or 7 rating, you're limited, I believe, what the insurance companies can charge, you know, for your insurance. So once you get outside that upper range or 9, you know, it's either the insurance companies can say, no fire department, no service, you know, we're not insuring you, or they can, no, we're gonna double your insurance, or you're gonna.
Well, I know that, along with that, OSHA's gonna ramp up this year. They're already gonna make some huge changes to our highway department. That's gonna cost us some money. And I don't know how that's gonna affect the fire department, but I believe it will. Because any hazardous material is gonna have to be documented, handled, and controlled. So, there's a lot going on, but I'm all for it. If you think it's something that you can do, and it's not gonna cost the town of Bernardston or anything to start with, I'm all for it. And we can figure out how we can go about getting a contract like the police department has, if they want it. Regionalization, I mean, I wish they would have stepped forward a while back. I mean, that would have helped as far as putting together a fire station.
And that's what I asked Natalie about up there, the regionalized. I've been talking to the fire marshal, and he goes, yes, you're 100% right. You hear that all the time. You merge, there's all kinds of money, there's all kinds of money.
Yes.
He goes, where is it? I have no idea.
That's what
but
we keep
people
getting-
keep talking about it all
Yep.
the time. And it's
Smoke and mirrors.
it's that mystery pot of gold that's sort of floating around out
Yep.
there, I guess. But-
And then we were talking about that the other day, that they keep telling us there's all kinds of money out there. Well, we got a grant writer looking, and where is it?
Where is it?
Where is it, and how do you get it? So,
Yeah, I mean, I think regionalization is the next step, honestly, for the fire. I really do.
Yeah,
But for the short
I've been
term,
behind that for years.
we can't be putting the wear and tear on our trucks if they can't fulfill their part of the mutual aid for nothing. When we're looking at staring down the possibilities of an $850,000 fire truck being on this warrant. I mean, that's not gonna sit well with me personally when all the road miles are headed up the hill to Leiden past my house, and we're paying the whole bill for that.
Right,
I mean,
and
I don't wanna be
they
a
basically
jerk
have
about
one
it, but-
truck. That's, as far as I'm concerned, even the guy that did the report basically said, as far as he's concerned, you have one fire truck.
Right.
It's a 2008, and it's not really built for what it should be for what Leiden would want. I mean, it's not all-wheel drive, it's
what does Gill have for a fire department? They got a good sized one, or
about the same size as ours.
well staffed? And
Well, like I said, they're probably about the 15 to 20 range, just like we are. But and then the call volume's the other thing. I mean, I don't have the stats from recently, but the last few years I went back. I mean, it's usually less than 30 calls a year. So I mean, you're not talking a real huge call volume. I mean, you're probably talking more wear and tear running the vehicles up and down the mountain.
But would it cross over to medical calls too for you folks? As
I
first
don't
responders?
think so, because they do have their own
Okay.
EMS committee, and they do, I think it was the old Leiden Chevy Tahoe or police Tahoe. They were sort of making that, because they do have a group of EMTs and first responders that we're doing, so it would be strictly just
So you wouldn't have to go up there
fire,
for first
rescue,
responder
right.
stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is a big piece of it.
So we would look at something similar to what we have with the police, where Jimmy sends a bill for their services, but the town sends a bill for all the overhead costs. And there would be overhead with the firefighters too, the same overhead. So
I mean, Lloyd Grover's like, they even get talking about inspections, and that's an issue they're having issues with now is, you know, you go to the bank and they want the smoke and CO detector inspection. If they don't have it, you know, it's delayed, it's put off for another 30 days or whatever.
And if you're not appointed their chief, they probably can't have you do it.
Well, again,
I don't know.
through the fire marshal, I think we can, as long as we
Okay.
have a signed agreement
Yep.
to offer that service. Or, I mean, if they make me the administrative blah, 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 whatever, you know, it gives you authority to go in and be able to do that type of stuff, so.
I mean, personally, I'm good going down that road, but we just
But,
want to
but
get
in
it laid out and
Bernardston,
signed.
I mean, when the guys do the inspections here, their pay is whatever the inspection fee is. But as Lloyd said, well, gee, if I'm running over to West Mountain Road to do a smoke detector test for $35. You know, that ain't bad, but if I gotta go up through Leiden all the way over to River Road to the other end of freaking town for $35 and drive all the way back up over through, now it's turned into a pretty near 2-hour ordeal. You know, that $35 ain't so high. And then,
It's true.
and I turned to Lloyd, he said, I don't even know what they charge for inspections up there either, so I mean,
Yeah.
you know, they may be only charging $20 for inspections, so it's,
That's not gonna
that
happen.
makes it less appealing, so I mean, there's gotta be some type of an agreement that, you know, you'd be paying the people to do inspections so much an hour to go do it, or,
Well, we found I always forget his name, the guy from UMass that's
Mike Edwards.
Mike Edwards, to be pretty fair in figuring out what Leiden should be charged for services that Bernardston is providing, so that we don't wind up paying for anything that, you know, where Leiden's running our costs, Leiden's paying for it, we're not. And he's been really good about making sure that he's covering those.
So it sounds like for this, right now, we're
Yeah.
good with Pete continuing down the road he's going. You guys are gonna bring it up at the next Public Safety Committee meeting, just so it's out in the open, and more to come.
And while we're here talking about it, I have been talking with Mike Edwards on and off all day today. I just gave him a heads up on it, so this won't be a surprise to him if he's not already in the loop on it.
But we don't feel jealous if you're talking to him.
all right. I just wanna get mad at me.
Here you go.
Well,
It's a good thing. It's gotta come to some of our rural communities anyway. It has to.
I mean,
We're not all gonna make it.
you see a lot of small towns are going through the same thing. I
Have
mean, we
to.
already got, I think, 3 other towns here in Franklin County that are working with shared chiefs, and
I mean, you are so lucky to have guys that own their own businesses in this
Oh,
community
absolutely, absolutely.
for our coverage during the day. We all know it.
Yeah, even with Lloyd, it was great to know that
Yeah.
your number 2 guy pretty much had the opportunity when an alarm go off that he could leave work and,
Right. I
and
mean,
head up here. Yes, it's some Greenfield, but still, you know, at least you know that they're on the way.
he's
And-
coming, and the experience those folks have is
I mean, and that's the problem in Leiden. There's no
Yeah.
business. It's a bedroom facility,
right.
and
Right. They're in a tough spot
Yeah.
for sure. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else for us?
that's it.
okay, go watch your
Thank
game.
you. Now the basketball game.
Go Celtics.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Peter.
it.
Now we can go back to opera.
Okay, we're gonna back up one. ARPA expenditures for BES. Last week, the select board met with Gretchen Licata, the facilities director at Pioneer Valley Regional School District at the elementary school, and we've met with her a few times to talk about what we call potential capital type projects. They were having some septic issues with the septic pumps. The select board did authorize already a $15,000 repair that's in the works over there for the septic pumping chamber, involving replacing both pumps and some of the associated plumbing. They've also asked us to consider 3 mini splits for 3 of the classrooms that are extremely hot at certain times of the year to help make the students a little more comfortable. They've asked for some new lighting in the Great Hall entryway that's quite dark on cloudy days, and we did take a look at it and agreed with that. That was a $2,000 expenditure for lighting that we did approve them to do already. They also talked about replacing the Bernardston Elementary School sign with a new sign. They had a price to replace that sign between $1,500 and $2,000, which we agreed to have them pursue that as well. So there's 3 projects that are listed here: the septic pump repairs, the new lighting in the Great Hall, and the new school sign. We've already approved them to do out of ARPA funding.
How much was the sign?
I remember the figure of 2,000. I remember the 2 of these flip-flop, but the total's the same.
Yeah, the total as was given to me for the lighting and the sign was $3,500. So when I broke this down, I wrote $2,000 for the lighting and $1,500 for the sign, but it could be
Either way, right?
Yeah.
And $15,000 for the septic repairs. So they've asked us, in addition, that we haven't approved yet, to 3 mini splits for 3 classrooms, which would be a $26,000 expenditure, or no more than $26,000. They've also asked for a new entry door security system to be a swipe card system, which would be a $24,000 expenditure to do 5 doors. And they've asked, which is part of some public safety lockdown drills they've done with state police and local police, for some window glass film that you can see out of but you can't see in place of replacing all of the pull down window shades, which are in desperate need of repair and are done probably every 10 years. I don't know, how many times have you done them, Jane, over there? More than once probably, right?
More than once, and they never last 10 years before they want something different.
The feeling is that the window glass film may be a better option for that. There's 2 items that I recall in the window glass film. There was the $66,000 ask, which would do everything. And there was approximately a $15,000 ask, which would do the entry door areas that Chief Palmieri had evaluated and said that would be a minimum he would do. So I have a couple thoughts before we get into everybody. The mini splits, I'm good with those. The door entry system, I'd like to wait a minute before we approve that until after tomorrow night's hearing in the Pioneer budget. That's going to be at the public hearing tomorrow night at the school. They do have a $55,000 capital project within the general budget for Pioneer itself for a swipe card system. Just curious why that's built into the budget, but ours isn't.
Should not be in the budget, it should be a separate
I would agree.
capital expense. Read your district agreement before tomorrow night. That has to be separate. Can't be in the operating.
I'm not against doing it, but I'm just curious why they're going about it one way at one school and a different way at a different school. And with a window glass film, personally, I'd like to see us do the $15,000 area and see if it works
Yep.
before we spent $66,000. That's just me personally. I don't know what, Stan, you have some input on any or all of those?
Some people say if you get a cloudy day and the lights are on, it doesn't do any good anyway. So
Right.
if it's at night, it doesn't do any good.
I lived with that film in the office building where I worked just before I retired. And we thought it was great. It was a new building we moved into, and it was wonderful. And another woman and I were working one night, decided, let's stay and finish this, and then discovered that everybody who walked by the building saw us sitting at our desks because the lights were on and it was dark out, and that film did not work under those circumstances. Then we were curious, so the next cloudy day, we took a walk around the building and we watched everybody work.
Well, I'm not so sure if that's the case. I'm not so.
Right, of any of it.
Huh?
That's why I'm not sure about any of it, to be honest with you, for the window film anyway.
I think we need to look into different solutions.
I mean, their intended purpose, correct me if I'm wrong, was for people to, a potential person trying to get into the building couldn't see inside it to come in.
Correct. That's what they
So
were
if it
telling.
was a cloudy day and they could see inside, it's kind of defeating the purpose. Or at night. So you want to go through these one at a time?
Sure.
Let's talk about the 3 mini splits, which was an NTX of $26,000 because they weren't positive of some of the rebates currently on that. They had a quote from Jamrog, which was a ballpark swag because they didn't see the exact classrooms they were going to go in, of approximately $8,500 per classroom.
I'm good with myself personally, fine with putting the 3 mini splits in.
Yes.
Want to make that one in a motion, Stan?
I make a motion that we allow the BES to contract, or whoever they get to contract with. I think it's going to be,
Jamrog is who they were talking to originally.
okay, but to contract out for 3 mini split units, not to exceed $26,000 for 3 classrooms.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? All's in favor?
Aye.
We've already decided on the septic pump repair, so that's done. The lighting we've decided on. Sign we decided on. New entry door security system. What's everybody's pleasure on that?
I agree with you to hold until we get some clarification on the PVRS.
You good with that, Stan?
Yeah, I'm for doing it because it's, I think it would be a good system.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just want to get a little more clarity on why Pioneer's doing it one way and we're doing it a different way. And how about the window glass film?
I would like to see or find out from them if they know of any place that this film is being used right now that we could go look at? Because maybe the film has changed, I don't know, but I would, before I agreed, I would like to make sure that it worked in all conditions.
With an additional stipulation that we go with the 15,000, not the 66, just to see that we're satisfied. We're not biting off the whole.
I would agree with that, and if everybody's good with it, I'll email Gretchen later tonight to see if she knows of any schools or other buildings that have used this film she's talking about that we could either go see or we could get a little more information on.
Sounds like a plan.
Then we can bring it back to here and decide on. I agree with you, the 15 would be the place to start, but. Okay, so I'll reach out to her, to Gretchen. I'll tell her the mini splits were good. She already knew about the other ones. We're gonna hold on the doors for a minute, not that we're not supporting it, but we want a little more info. And want more info on the window glass, on the effectiveness of it, before we agree to do any of that. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Yes, it does. And looking at the ARPA funds, I guess she's got quite a breakdown, yeah.
Yeah, I got that one somewhere else.
Now, looking at this, maybe I was sleeping or I missed a meeting, but Depot Street culvert repair.
Yeah, that was back when Bob Raymond was still on the board. We gave Brian up to that $12,500 to make a repair. That was going to gain us between 5 and 10 more years useful life out of it. A little update on that. He's been working with, Lou, correct me on any of this. He's been working with Cassie, with the Conservation Commission, with the DEP's involvement about potentially sleeving that culvert. And if he can get away with that, he believes, and the DEP will allow it, he believes he can do it for this figure or a little bit less, and then that culvert will become good for 20 plus years. So Cassie and Brian are working with the DEP to see if they will approve that.
You have the
repair.
details correct, Mr. Chairman.
So that was one we did approve quite a while ago. He has not spent or he's trying to work a plan that would buy more life out of that for the same money.
Okay. Gas tank installation, that's not done yet.
Right, the biggest expense of that, except for the electrician, it's there. So the bill is here for around $16,000 of that.
Yeah,
currently.
the tank was picked up today along with the monitor system, so we know who's using the gas tank. The two invoices from Roberts Energy total about $16,000, and the electrician will be about $2,500, so we'll be under budget on that.
And just to follow up with that, Stan, if I can, I had a conversation with Brian the other day and again today in regards to the diesel tank that we thought we were going to get a quote on and do as well. He said he did get a quote. It was very expensive, so he kind of put it on the back burner and was going to continue on the way he was. I asked him today to get an updated quote so we could decide if, not that we're trying to blow this money, but because we have a little money that we won't always have, is it going to make some sense to upgrade the technology with a newer tank and start capturing more of that savings that we were hoping to do
Okay, well, let me ask
for the future?
Let me ask you a question. If he thinks the tank is going to cost too much money, can the card system be put on the old tank?
It's the same interface computer, I'm going to call it. That's probably not the right word. And I'm not sure how it would interface with the old system. He wasn't either. He's going to ask that question. I also talked to him about, how many times a year they're having to change the filter on that because it's an old steel tank. Sometimes the linings of those with a little bit of moisture in the fuel starts them to rust. He says they have to change that filter roughly 4 to 5 times a year.
Really?
And he said you can definitely tell when it starts to plug up from picking up some of the sediment within the tank. He's saying if you're willing to spend the money, it's a great idea, and I'll continue to use this one for as long as I can, and I might be able to take advantage of getting cheaper diesel fuel prices because he then has more storage there, and they could come and dump a whole load between the two tanks. He said I might be able to save a few more pennies per delivery if I had them both until the other one got bad enough that I couldn't use anymore. There will be a day in the future, just when that is, that existing tank's gonna be not useful anymore.
How often does he fill that tank now? Do we know that?
I don't know that.
And
He told me he got a delivery earlier this week or last week
Because the price dropped.
because the price had dropped, and his previous delivery was maybe 5 weeks ago.
I think told me today he got 250 gallons the other day.
it's about 500 gallon tank,
I think he's got a
I think it's
1,000 now, that big
1,000
one.
gallon tank, yeah.
1,000. Because and he didn't give us an idea of what he was talking about was too expensive with the
Not to
other
me, he
one.
didn't. And I think he was looking at a 2,000 gallon diesel tank.
Yeah, back when we were first talking about adding the fuel tanks over there, the gasoline tank, really we hadn't thought about doing the diesel, but we got such a good price on the gasoline tank that the speculation was that a diesel tank would be in the ballpark. But off the top of my head, I think that he said it was like $18,000
Yeah, I think it
just
was-
for the tank.
I think it was pushing 20.
Yeah, it was,
$18,000 just for the tank?
yeah, it was a ridiculous amount of money. So,
We're paying $18,000 or $16,000 for a gasoline tank.
yeah, but you're starting off with nothing.
Don't forget $9,500 of that gasoline tank is the computer interface to be able to have the key fobs for all the different
And that
departments and track it.
interface will be able to work with if there's a new diesel
If you're
tank.
replacing a diesel tank, you're starting off from nothing.
But the interface would still work with the diesel tank, the computer, the $9,500 computer.
Yeah, when you compare apples to apples, the tank itself was about $6,000.
For the gas one.
Okay, you guys are losing because you're saying the interface is going to be on the gasoline.
It can do both the diesel and the gas together.
Okay, so right now we don't have an interface on the diesel.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so, well, I'll go back to what I just said. We'll be starting from ground zero if we put a new tank in.
Other than the interface, you would not need to buy another one.
Right. So if it was only $18,000, he definitely should have came to us and said something.
And that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna get the price
Oh,
freshened up,
and-
which he
and-
thinks they'll have tomorrow.
And look at, my other thing is because they are fire trucks and highway trucks. They're not 23-gallon tank vehicles. That if we need to go with a 2,000-gallon tank, we should be looking at that and
That's
seeing.
what he is. He's looking at a 2,000 gallon tank.
Okay. But he's got to communicate with us when just putting stuff off.
On this list, what is the Patriot Properties software?
That is some software that was approved before you came on for the assessors.
Okay.
That was, in May, it'll be a year, and they have yet to order it.
They are currently doing a background transition on it that if you thought the changeover to Tyler was painful, changing from Tyler to Patriot is equally painful. They have to set up a Dropbox account to have the Tyler data parked, and then Patriot is going to extract that, drop it into the Patriot system, and I told Jill, when you get the bill, just make sure I get it.
And the reason they waited to this date was they wanted to wait till they had the tax bills out so they didn't get those messed up.
Right.
And they started immediately after the tax bills went out with the integration.
So this is still moving forward?
Yes.
Okay. Library landscaping, library repairs. Now, we don't know for sure, he hasn't got back to us on that mini split for that.
No, I haven't heard anything from Brandon of you, Lou.
Jamrog wanted to meet with anybody over there 2 weeks ago. They wanted to meet at 8:15 in the morning, and nobody was available, and there's been no follow-up from the library since then. Now, I do have a question about this. As you're looking at the ARPA sheet, there's a listing for 3/23/2022 of Cushman Library improvements for $9,000. Then more recently, January 12th of this year, library repairs of $10,000. Was that the same one? Because I knew they were going to get that insulation project with the electrical done.
That was a 9,000
All right, so
with her
it is.
grant.
It
She had a
is
grant that went along with that.
okay. So
The
All right,
next
so
one,
9,000's our share of it then?
yes,
All
the
right.
$10,000 one for the library, correct me if I'm wrong, Stan, was for repairing the existing mini split and adding more in there so they can get rid of the window ones.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that it was two separate items.
Yeah, because
That's my recollection, I
yeah,
guess, too.
that was supposed to have been done underneath the 9,000, the electrical and all that stuff, and they haven't even completed that yet.
Right.
We asked them to get rid of the tube and
Knob and tube.
knob and tube one, and that's still sitting there because somebody says, well, don't touch it, it's all right. Well, that's not the case. Get rid of it.
I forget the amount of the grant she has that went with that $9,000 one, but it wasn't a 50/50.
Okay.
It was a small
Yeah, I forget the amount she had.
tube.
For what?
She had a grant that was gonna go toward removing some of the knob and tube. That was why we gave them the extra $9,000 to be able to do the insulation too and finish the knob and tube along with her grant.
Well, they're gonna have to get their stuff together so they can give us a,
Is
or we'll use the
10,000
money
not
someplace
en-
else.
10,000's not enough to replace the one mini split that's there and have another one.
Well, we don't know. We don't know what's wrong with the existing one, if it's just the indoor head or if it's the condenser, we don't know. They weren't sure when they came to us. They just knew it was broken.
Plug it in.
So hopefully we're gonna get an update on that. Senior Center town share of new stove is 5,000. Yeah, we got the other ones. Okay,
This is a good recap.
Yeah, and then, and the Comerford one's below that. the
I see
earmark.
that. With the 7,300 balance, is there anything that could move from page 1 to page 2? And
I think Lou's kinda, we've talked about it a bunch of times.
Yeah, I've shuffled things around where it's best going to fit. Some of the expenses right now, Ken, are ballpark figures
I
because
understand,
we've
yeah.
not been invoiced yet. Obviously, as we've talked about 1,000 times, we're going to get that earmark spent down
yes,
before anything else.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
so the Patriot software sliding down to the earmark, just about use it up.
Right, right.
If that could be done, I don't know whether it's,
That's true. That's pretty darn close, isn't it?
oh, it put us over.
we anticipate that being spent soon.
Well, and I guess another way to look at that earmark one is if we move the Patriot figure over there and we were essentially overdrawn $650, you can take that out of ARPA money to square it up.
On the Cumberford one, which ones have already been invoiced? Do we know that? And paid?
The highway garage heating mini split, that's all done and paid for. EDM engineering, those are all done. The Quabbin well and pump, that's for the 2 pumps over at the senior center.
Yeah.
Jennifer told me yesterday that she's getting a runaround on that.
Yes.
You know, whether it's weather related or not, I couldn't say for sure. I'm a little concerned because that's also the outfit that we've approved to do BES.
Yep.
But that one's not done yet. The Veterans Monument is in motion. I've had one bill for that come through. And then, as we talked about earlier, the light in the Great Hall and the new sign are not paid for yet. Not done yet.
Oh, okay,
I
so we
thought the
got.
new sign was gonna be provided by Lighting.
Lighting's offered money for something. And she's gonna just divert that money to something else that we would have had to pay for at the school. She's gonna tell us what it is when she knows.
But you are right.
That is
Light
correct.
was supposed to.
And the thing to keep in mind about both of these spreadsheets is that they're living documents because, you know, if we take that highway garage one, you know, we had estimated 50,000 and the actual cost was 46.3. So things are going to be in motion and we have to love it for what it is.
Till the final bill comes in, you don't know.
Exactly.
And we still have till June 30th.
Correct.
So it's, the clock is ticking, but not that
Right.
urgently. Yeah.
In a perfect world, I'd like to be all done with it by April if we could.
Makes sense.
So that way the reimbursement can go out and the money comes back in, hopefully before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay,
Everybody good with those?
Yep.
The next one up we have is supplemental plow for the highway department. Brian Miner's been contacted by Milton Cat. It's a brand new plow, but it's from 3 seasons ago. It's never been used. Cat has offered it to Brian he's been poking him, seeing if they had anything he could put into the Cat loader at a reasonable cost. They've offered it to him for $6,000. The original cost of that, and to buy a new one today would be $24,000.
Wow.
Brian has enough money currently in the highway trucks account that we had set aside from the stabilization fund for the 2 used vehicles and to outfit them for plowing and sanding. So there is enough within that to purchase that plow. He had asked me about it, and I just felt better if it went through the 3 of us.
The only concern I have is he's talking about needing a new vehicle to replace the white truck.
Mm-hmm.
If he spends the highway trucks item down to 0 or close to 0, there won't be anything available to replace the white one, and the white one is on borrowed time.
It's true.
Failing
I don't think you
inspection.
can replace the white one out of that fund.
No?
No, because of the way the vote was.
Okay.
we could
I-
go
I
back
have
and
to-
vote and have it taken out and put into another fund.
Yeah, might require.
This same plow can also fit onto the current big trucks that
Okay.
the same plow can go onto those trucks.
Looks like quite a deal. Brand new thing for,
So it can go
quarter of
either
the
on the
price.
loader or the bigger plow trucks, not the small one, but the
One
bigger
of the
ones.
new trucks that
Yeah,
can go on.
He just had retrofitted, so it could be a backup if one of those broke. And or if he lost a big truck, he could plow some of the streets within the community here on the lower level with the Cat loader with the plow on it. So it gives them a backup option.
Has everything been done with the used trucks that he bought that needs to be done?
He says that those are complete. We have all the Raymond bills in accounted for against this account as well.
Okay, did he ever get the snow blower for the skid steer?
I don't know. I noticed he had a V plow on it now. I don't know if he got a snowblower or not.
I don't think he did.
He got the grapple. Is that the right word I'm looking for?
yeah?
How about the piece of equipment we're gonna have for the grading the ball field?
Oh, the rake? I'm pretty sure he did get the rake, the rock rake.
I thought he had that last year.
Yes.
Yeah, for doing the fields.
Okay.
And there's also the chipper that needs to be replaced.
Right.
So we're talking about a pickup truck and a chipper. We're talking about a lot of money for
Yep.
that department.
Yeah, that chipper is a serious chunk of change.
Well, keep in mind, even if I know we're burning through this money, but
You're $297,000.
there's still $297,000 in the ARPA funding. And if we don't do the BES window film, depending on what we find out, that's another $66,000 that would be added back into
But
that.
where's my bonus on that?
Your bonus?
I'll make a motion to have, so we can have a discussion. I'll make a motion to have Brian Miner purchase a plow from Cat for $6,000 and to be taken out of the Cumberford earmark, which has got $7,348 left in it.
Kind of like that.
Second.
Any other discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's good thoughts, Dan.
Well, that'll leave that money in that
Yep.
account that we could, if he can find a used pickup truck for $6,000, buy it.
And that comes close to using up the Cumberford finally.
Right.
But you said we can't use that. We'd have to put it into another account?
We have to look at how the vote was
Okay.
worded. If it was talking the 2 trucks that we got specifically that kind of truck, then we have to have another vote.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we couldn't vote to
At
move
a
that
town
much money.
meeting, at a special town meeting, or this,
Special or annual? Yeah, no,
Yeah,
not you
no.
guys.
okay, not this group.
Okay, next up, Senator Joe Comerford has reached out to Lou that she'd like to come make a visit to a select board meeting at some point over the next few months. She has sent us a list of dates and suggested times to meet with us, for us to pick some dates and times or suggest a different option. There are multiple dates within, they don't start till March 1st. March, April, many days in March and April, many days in May. And for times she's suggesting, the earliest suggestion here is a 4 p.m. and the latest would be an 8 p.m. And she's willing to work with us around dates and times if we want. Do folks prefer to meet her
May
at
17th looks like a good day.
the 17th?
Yeah, May 17th.
May 17th.
I'll be in Florida.
Do we want to try to tie it into a select board meeting
Yes,
to save us all another meeting?
yes.
So Lou, is that fair for you to work out a date at one of our future select board meetings with her?
Absolutely, and if,
Have her one of our first appointments?
yeah, if the board has any preference as to dates,
No.
I'll make it happen right away.
The only caution there would be around the annual meeting time. You want
Yes.
to avoid those dates.
Around the what?
Yeah,
Annual meeting.
town meeting.
Hopefully you'll see her before then.
Right. If we did it in March, wouldn't be too painful.
And that's the last under, well, we have one more under unplanned business. The gas engine show, the church has reached out looking for permission from the select board to use the Pratt Field properties for the Memorial Day weekend, 2023, for the annual gas engine show. We typically do support that. They did reach out to make sure that date was still going to be okay with us to do this year. If we want to make a quick motion and a vote to approve that or disapprove it.
I'd make a motion that we allow the gas engine control to committee to use Pratt Field again like they did last year, as long as there's no changes, or if there is changes, they need to come to us and let us know what those are. But they do a great job, and don't even know they're there when they're done. So.
Second.
And any discussion? I just like to throw one little thing out there. I know last year we did hear from Brian Miner that some of the ruts that were made out there weren't repaired to the satisfaction that they could continue to mow the fields. And the highway department had to make some repairs before they could do that. If that Brian Miner gives it a quick inspection at the end of the weekend to
Yeah,
make sure they're all on the same page.
Yeah, the Saturday event last year,
That pouring rain.
horrendous
Pouring rain.
downpour. And once I think there were probably about 300 cars in the yard, maybe 400 at that point, and it was just
Could have been
Rugged.
an unusual event, but
rugged to get out.
Just
But,
to
that's a good
close the
point.
loop with
And,
Brian.
yeah, and I do have the dates, Mr. Chairman. The gas engine show is planned for May 26th, 27th, and 28th.
perfect. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. We have two little quick things to bring up. We did receive a check from the Heirloom Collective for the first quarter, payment of $8,750, which is going to work out to $35,000 for the for the year 2023.
Who
And that,
was that from?
Heirloom Collective for the medical marijuana community host agreement.
Okay.
And that goes directly into the vehicle stabilization fund. And we received another check from CMRK. Those are the folks that have the clothing collectible boxes at the transfer station. For the fourth quarter of 2022, they picked up 3,023 pounds that did not go into the waste stream, and the town of Bernardston received a check for $211.61. So every quarter we've had those folks, CMRK over there, we've received over $200 a quarter to date. So that's pretty successful.
Better than zero, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Plus,
indeed.
we're not paying that tonnage to truck it out of town.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up tonight? Stan, Ken?
Yes.
Please do.
The other day, we had an event at the senior center. The three select board members were there to answer concerns, questions from the seniors in attendance. I thought it was a
Yeah, it was great.
pretty successful event, and we're looking to do it again. Obviously interested in having any opportunity to get feedback from the townsfolk as to the direction the select board is heading in whatever issue that they're concerned about. So if they don't feel comfortable coming to this meeting, those kinds of meetings where we reach out to the town works for us as well. So we'd like to hear from you out there with your concerns. So,
It was a great event. And just to add to that, the select board did commit to cooking dinner the next time. So
now Stan
gonna talk us into that. So
Yeah.
we gotta get the menu going. We're gonna keep that a secret. And Stan's special recipe here.
Yep.
And we're gonna provide dinner to the seniors at that next event at the senior center.
I will mark that one on my calendar.
We might not tell you the date, you never know. Anybody have anything else?
Jennifer will publish it in the news.
She will.
Yes,
She will.
indeed.
It was a good event though.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
Good night.
everybody.